"You're a burden now," my mother said as my brother packed my belongings. "We can't take care of you after your accident." They expelled me while I was still in a wheelchair. 3 months later, when they uncovered what I had been hiding, it was too late. Hey, Reddit. Into trash bags went my medical bills and the constant need for care. It was too much. "You're becoming a burden." I sat in my wheelchair, still adjusting to my new reality following the rock climbing accident that had temporarily paralyzed my legs. The doctors were hopeful about my recovery with the right therapy, but my family had other plans. "But Mom, I just need a few months," I pleaded, watching as Alex carelessly tossed my photos and books into bags. The doctor said with rehabilitation, "We're not a hospital," she cut me off sharply. "Your brother needs the spare room for his home office, and we can't keep carrying you up and down the stairs." The irony wasn't lost on me. For years, I had been the family's support system. I had helped pay for Alex's college when my parents couldn't afford it, using my savings from teaching outdoor survival courses. I postponed my own dreams to care for Dad during his heart surgery. Now, just 3 weeks after my accident, they couldn't wait to get rid of me. Alex didn't even look at me as he zipped up the last bag. "I called Aunt Marie," my mom announced. "She has a small guest room. It's not much, but—" "No," I said quietly, pulling out my phone. "I'll figure something out." They seemed relieved at my refusal, eager to wash their hands of responsibility. What they didn't know was that I had been preparing for this moment. I had seen the way they looked at me since the accident, as if I were damaged goods, a disappointment to their perfect family image. What they also didn't know was that my accident had happened while I was testing a new route for my wilderness survival program, the same program that had caught the attention of a major outdoor adventure company 3 months ago. I kept the negotiations quiet, not wanting to jinx the deal. "I've called the car service," I said. "They'll be here in 20 minutes. "Don't be dramatic, Emma," Mom sighed. "Where will you go? You can barely take care of yourself." I looked around my childhood room, now stripped bare except for my wheelchair and the bags of hastily packed belongings. "I'll manage. I always have." The car service arrived, not the usual taxi they expected, but a specialized vehicle equipped for wheelchair transport. Their surprise at this small sign of competence was almost comical. "Emma," Alex finally spoke, his voice uncertain. "Maybe we should discuss this now." "You want to discuss it?" I wheeled myself toward the door after you've packed my life into garbage bags. The driver was professionally efficient, helping me into the vehicle while my family stood awkwardly on the porch. Mom kept glancing at the neighbors, probably worried about appearances. "At least tell us where you're going," she called out. I smiled, thinking of the apartment I'd secretly leased the week before, a fully accessible unit in a luxury building downtown, the same building where I had had my final meeting with the adventure company's executives before my accident. "Don't worry about me," I replied as the driver secured my wheelchair. "I'm sure you'll hear all about it soon enough." As we drove away, I caught a last glimpse of their faces in the rearview mirror. They looked confused, maybe even a little worried. They had expected me to break down and beg them to accept their dismissal of my worth because of my temporary disability. What they didn't realize was that my accident hadn't just changed my body, it had opened my eyes. While lying in that hospital bed, I had finalized the biggest deal of my career. The contract was signed 2 days before they decided to throw me out. My phone buzzed with a message from the company's CEO. "Everything is set for the announcement next week. The media is excited about our new adaptive adventure program director." I typed back a quick confirmation, then silenced my phone as messages from my mom started pouring in. They would have to wait. I had rehabilitation exercises to focus on and a groundbreaking program to launch. Let them think they had abandoned me to struggle. In 3 months, when the program launched and my story hit the media, they would realize exactly what they had thrown away. The driver caught my eye in the rearview mirror. "You okay back there, miss?" I smiled, feeling stronger than I had in weeks. Never better. Sometimes being kicked out is exactly the push you need. 3 months passed faster than I expected. Between intensive physical therapy sessions and virtual meetings with my team, I barely had time to think about my family's betrayal. The luxury apartment became my sanctuary, its accessible design allowing me independence despite my temporary limitations. The rehabilitation center staff were amazed at my progress. "Your determination is remarkable," Dr. Santos commented during one session as I pushed through another set of exercises. "Most patients take much longer to reach this stage." What she didn't know was that every time my muscles screamed in protest, I pictured my mother's dismissive face. Every time I wanted to quit, I remembered Alex carelessly tossing my belongings into garbage bags. Pain became my fuel, rejection my motivation. My phone had been quiet for weeks. After the initial flurry of guilty messages from my mom and a few half-hearted texts from Alex, they had given up trying to contact me. I heard through Aunt Marie that they told everyone I was taking time to recover at a special facility, their way of saving face with neighbors and friends. The day before the big announcement, I received an unexpected visit. Sarah, my childhood best friend, who lived next door to my parents, stopped by with news. "You won't believe this," she said, settling onto my couch. "Your mom's been bragging about Alex's promotion at the country club. Apparently, he's now regional manager at his firm." I wheeled myself to the kitchen, grabbing us both some tea. "Let me guess, they're planning a big celebration this Sunday." Sarah hesitated. "She's telling everyone you're still too unwell to attend." I couldn't help but laugh. Perfect timing. "What do you mean?" I showed her the press release scheduled for tomorrow morning. Her eyes widened as she read, "Revolutionary Adaptive Adventure Program launches, led by accident survivor Emma Mitchell." "Emma," she gasped. "This is huge. The program, the funding, you're going to be on national news." I nodded, sipping my tea. "Tomorrow morning, every major outdoor and fitness publication will run this story. By Sunday's party, everyone will know exactly why I'm not attending." The next morning, everything exploded. My phone started buzzing at 7 a.m. as the news broke. The story was perfect. Young outdoor educator turns personal tragedy into triumph, launching the first of its kind adaptive adventure program with major industry backing. My inbox flooded with interview requests from magazines and TV shows. Around noon, Aunt Marie called. "Your mother just saw the news," she said, trying to suppress her glee. "She's having quite the meltdown." "Oh." I kept my voice neutral. She was at the salon preparing for Alex's party when someone showed her the article. Apparently, she knocked over a whole tray of hair products. I could picture it perfectly. Mom with her hair half done, trying to maintain her composure. As her carefully constructed narrative crumbled, the daughter she dismissed as a burden was now making headlines. The messages started pouring in, first from Alex. "Why didn't you tell us? We could have helped." Then from Mom. "Emma, honey, we need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding." I saved the best one for Dad, who had remained silent during my eviction. "Your mother's very upset. You should have discussed this with a family first." My response was simple, "Like you discussed throwing me out." That evening, as I worked through my therapy exercises in my building's state-of-the-art gym, Sarah texted updates from the neighborhood. "Your mom's canceling Sunday's party, claiming she's not feeling well." Everyone knows the real reason, though. The articles are all over local Facebook groups. I set down my phone and looked at myself in the gym's mirror. My arms were stronger now, my core more defined from months of rehabilitation. I graduated from the wheelchair to crutches last week, though I kept both for different situations. The doctors were amazed by my recovery rate. "Your body's response to therapy is exceptional," Dr. Santos had said during my last assessment. "But it's your mental strength that's truly remarkable." She was right. 3 months ago, I had left my childhood home broken, not by my accident, but by my family's rejection. Now I was stronger than ever. Not despite their actions, but because of them. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mom. "Please, Emma, let's talk about this as a family. We can fix this." Fix this. As if my success was a problem that needed solving. As if my independence was a family crisis that required management. I wheeled myself to the floor-to-ceiling windows of my apartment, looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow, I'd give my first live interview about the program. In a week, We'd start accepting applications from other accident survivors and differently abled adventurers. My story was no longer about being kicked out. It was about where I was going. Let them scramble to explain their actions. Let them try to rewrite history. I had bigger mountains to climb. The morning of my first live interview coincided with what would have been Alex's celebration party. Instead of hosting the neighborhood at their house, my parents were huddled around their TV watching me on Good Morning America. I sat poised in my sleek wheelchair, a choice I'd made deliberately, even though I could now walk with crutches. Sometimes our greatest setbacks reveal our true path, I told the interviewer, my voice clear and confident. This program isn't just about adaptive adventure sports. It's about showing people that limitations are often just invitations to innovate. The segment included footage from my recent trial run, me leading a group of participants in adaptive rock climbing, the very activity that had caused my accident. But now we had specialized equipment, safety protocols, and a team of trained instructors. And your own recovery has been remarkable, the interviewer noted. How did your family support system help with that? I smiled, ready for this question. Actually, my recovery taught me that sometimes we have to build our own support systems. Not everyone understands that disability doesn't equal inability. The subtle message wasn't lost on viewers. Social media exploded with supportive comments, many sharing their own stories of family rejection during difficult times. Later that afternoon, as I was reviewing applications for the program's first official session, my building security called. Mitchell, your parents are here requesting access. I've been expecting this. Send them up. They arrived looking smaller, somehow less intimidating than they had 3 months ago. Mom's perfectly styled hair couldn't hide her nervous fidgeting. Dad's usual commanding presence seemed diminished. Emma, Mom started, her eyes darting around my expansive apartment. We've been trying to reach you. I know, I replied, gesturing to my comfortable seating area. Please sit. They perched awkwardly on my couch, taking in the adaptive modifications that made the space both accessible and elegant. Through my floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawled below us, a view that probably cost more than their entire house. Why didn't you tell us about the program? Dad finally asked about the contract. Would it have changed your decision to throw me out? The silence was answer enough. We were worried, Mom tried. We didn't know how to handle the situation. So, you decided not handling it at all was the answer? I maneuvered my wheelchair closer. You know what's interesting? When I was in the hospital before you decided I was a burden, the company's CEO visited me. He said my accident made our program even more valuable. Now, I could understand our future participants firsthand. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Were your parents, Emma? We deserve to know. Like I deserve to know you were planning to kick me out? Or did Alex's need for a home office outweigh my right to recover in my own home? The mention of Alex made Mom flinch. He's very sorry. The promotion, it's not working out as planned. I couldn't help but laugh. Let me guess. The company saw the news. They're not too happy about a manager who threw his disabled sister out of her home. More uncomfortable silence. Emma, Mom pleaded. We can fix this. Come home. We'll convert the downstairs study and make it accessible. I am home. I gestured around my apartment. And I don't need your space anymore. What I needed was your support, and you showed me exactly how much that was worth. Tears welled in Mom's eyes. We made a terrible mistake. Yes, you did. I agreed. But it taught me something valuable. Sometimes the people we expect to lift us up are actually holding us down. I wheeled myself to my desk, picking up some papers. These are applications from people like me, survivors, fighters, people who refuse to be defined by their challenges. That's my family now. Dad stood up, his voice gruff with emotion. What can we do? How can we make this right? I handed them a brochure for the program. You can start by understanding that disability doesn't make someone a burden. These programs will help people rebuild their confidence, their strength, their independence. You're welcome to donate anonymously, of course. They left looking defeated, the brochure clutched in Mom's manicured hands. As the door closed behind them, I felt the last weight of their rejection lift from my shoulders. My phone buzzed. Another message from the CEO. Applications flooding in after your interview. You're changing lives, Emma. I smiled, wheeling myself to the window. Below, I watched my parents exit the building, looking small against the towering architecture. They had thrown me away when I was at my lowest, never imagining I would soar to such heights. Let them live with that knowledge. Let them explain to their country club friends why they're not part of their daughter's success story. I had mountains to climb, lives to change, and a future to build. Sometimes being kicked out isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of something better.